April 4, 2020 is a day that will forever be etched in the minds of those who knew and loved Mary Santina Collins. Amid the throes of the COVID-19 pandemic, the body of the 20-year-old was discovered in an apartment in the North Davidson area of Charlotte, North Carolina. The ensuing investigation uncovered a series of events deemed among the most senseless and depraved the city has ever witnessed. In an interview with Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department Detective Brian Crum, the public got a glimpse of the shocking details.
Let's just talk about this case in general terms. I think most people hear sort of the basics of it and are pretty shocked by it. How would you describe this crime?
I think shocking is the perfect way to describe it. This is a case that there's so many things about it that just, I think, shocked every one of us that was involved with it. You have, such a young victim who had so much ahead of her in life. She was, I think, taken advantage of by people she should have trusted or she trusted. And I think that's what just gets you so much more about this case. And it's just absolutely, the nature of the crime was just horrendous. I struggle to think of a crime that's just really more shocking that we've recently looked at.
So in that initial search that the homeowner consented to, the missing persons detectives did look at the mattress, but
Absolutely.
They didn't find Mary's body.
Absolutely. So they looked, under the mattress, along with the homeowners. There was nothing that was apparent at that time. And this is really at this time the second time someone has searched the house. So the family's been in the home. We've now been in the home. We didn't see anything that was apparent. And, unfortunately, we were limited to what we could search, like we discussed.
How did they miss finding?
Relatives described 20-year-old Mary Santina Collins as a kind, loving, innocent, and fragile soul. She had a passion for singing and a smile that could light up even the darkest rooms. Mary was born on July 6, 1999. At age 3, she was diagnosed with a genetic condition known as 22q deletion syndrome, or DiGeorge syndrome, which caused some developmental delays and cognitive impairment. She also had an internal cleft palate, which affected her speech. Although Mary underwent successful palate repair, she was essentially nonverbal until age 6. Despite these challenges, Mary worked hard to communicate. She began with sign language at a very early age and continuously worked to develop verbal skills. By age 20, Mary could communicate verbally, although she had a significant speech impediment and lacked the physical ability to scream. Due to her severe learning disability, Mary was unable to continue public school. In addition, she did not drive a car or live independently and would easily get confused with her location. Despite these challenges, Mary enjoyed learning and playing the guitar. A few years after leaving high school, she briefly dated a teenager named Lavi Pham, whom she knew of through their high school's online channels. 2 years after they stopped dating, Lavi's new girlfriend, Kelly Lavery, started to harass Mary online with cruel and disparaging comments. Mary's family was unaware of the situation, but the harassment eventually stopped. Kelly later managed to convince Mary they were friends and invited her to the 2-bedroom apartment she shared with Lavi for a girls' night filled with scary movies and makeup. Kelly even offered to buy sushi, which was Mary's favorite food. Despite Kelly's past behavior, Mary saw her as a friend and agreed to meet with the couple on Saturday, March 28. Mary, who always looked at the bright side of a situation, was eager to socialize and was in cheerful spirits. North Carolina reported its first COVID-19 case on March 4, 2020, and Governor Roy Cooper declared a state of emergency just 6 days later. By March 27, the number of cases had surged, placing immense stress on frontline workers such as nurses, police, and retail clerks. As Mary prepared to leave her home on March 28, the country was amid a full-blown pandemic, and within 2 weeks, the U.S. coronavirus death toll would be the highest in the world. On Saturday, March 28, Kelly Lavery arranged an Uber to pick up Mary from her home and bring her to the yards at Noda Apartments. Mary's grandmother, Mia Alderman, was apprehensive about her granddaughter going anywhere amid the pandemic. She attempted to dissuade Mary from leaving, but Mary was eager to socialize and insisted on taking the ride. As the Uber pulled away, Miss Alderman could not shake off her lingering unease. Mary arrived at the Yards Apartments at 2:30 p.m. She did not respond to text messages from family members that night. The next morning at 6:54 a.m., one of Mary's relatives sent a text message to Kelly stating, "Mary needs to call home immediately, please. This number." Kelly did not reply. Shortly after the relative's text message, Lavi posted videos on social media featuring himself, Mary, and Kelly chatting and smiling in the hallways of their building. One video even showed Lavi holding a bag of takeout sushi. Yet, despite the seemingly happy footage, Mary had still not responded to text messages or phone calls, and her phone appeared to be off. Unfortunately, relatives buy into the false sense of security the social media videos were intended to provide. As the hours passed, they anxiously waited to hear from Mary. At 7:31 p.m. that evening, a relative of Mary's sent a text to Kelly that stated, "Kelly, Mary's phone is off. We have a family emergency. Please have her call as soon as possible. Thank you." Once again, there is no response from Kelly. After almost 36 hours without contact, Miss Alderman went to the Yards apartments to pick up Mary. Lavi and Kelly initially claimed that Mary had already left, and they did not know where she was. Miss Alderman sensed that they were lying and persistently shouted Mary's name and threatened to call 911. After this, she was allowed into the apartment. Miss Alderman thoroughly searched one bedroom, a bathroom, and multiple closets, but was prevented from entering the back bedroom. Unfortunately, her search yielded no trace of Mary. That evening, Miss Alderman called 911 and stressed to the operator that Mary was endangered and had not been heard from since March 28. Miss Alderman also said she could not track Mary's phone location and her bank account had no recent activity. The operator instructed her to return home and complete a standard missing persons report, which was a difficult decision for Miss Alderman as she firmly believed Mary was still in the apartment. Eventually, a police officer was sent to the Yards apartments for a welfare check, but left the scene after knocking and receiving no response. Finally, a separate officer took a report from Miss Alderman at her home and said a missing persons detective would contact her. Miss Alderman returned to the Yards apartments that night and continued waiting into the morning for the police to arrive and search the apartment. On March 31st, Miss Alderman canvassed the area as she anxiously waited for the police to arrive. She even persuaded the apartment manager to review the security cameras for any leads. Her hopes were momentarily lifted when missing persons detective Gaskin contacted her, promising to work on Mary's case. But her relief was short-lived when Gaskin stated he could not make it to the apartments that day and instructed her to call 911 instead. So, Miss Alderman dialed 911 once again, pleading for help. When officer number 3 arrived, he was met with resistance from Lavi, who denied him entry. However, Lavi agreed to allow Mary's mother, who had recently arrived, to enter the back bedroom while the officer remained at the front door. Mary's mother spotted someone lying on the bed, covered by a sheet, which Lavi claimed was Kelly. Despite their desperate search, Mary was nowhere to be found, although they were not made aware of a second bathroom in the apartment. Afterward, Miss Alderman informed the officer that the property manager was reviewing surveillance camera footage. That's when she discovered that the police had instructed the manager to stop reviewing the footage. The family was upset to learn that Detective Gaskin had insisted on a warrant before any further investigation could proceed. The family's frustration mounted as they felt their pleas for help fell on deaf ears, with every passing moment bringing them one step closer to the worst possible outcome. Mary's relatives were growing increasingly disheartened by the lack of progress in the investigation. By April 1st, 2020, they had become convinced that the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department was not prioritizing Mary's disappearance. The family wanted the police to press Lavi and Kelly for answers, but instead, missing persons detective Gaskin advised them not to harass the couple as they felt threatened. This response only added to the family's confusion and despair. On the 6th day of Mary's disappearance, Mary's friends, family, and community members organized a search party. Using drones and bloodhounds, they explored train tracks, surrounding woods, construction sites, and trash bins. As they continued to fight for answers, one of Mary's former classmates started an online investigation into Mary's disappearance. She scoured social media and stumbled upon a critical piece of information. A witness reportedly overheard a man named James Salerno boasting about a violent attack on Mary. According to the witness, Salerno had claimed that Mary's body was hidden inside a mattress that Lavi and Kelly had planned to burn. Armed with this chilling revelation, Detective Gaskin visited the Yards apartment complex, although for unknown reasons, a search and seizure warrant was not requested at that time. Upon arrival at the scene, Detective Gaskin persuaded Lavi to allow a consent search of the premises. As officers watched, Lavi lifted the mattress, revealing nothing. Gaskin looked around the apartment before leaving, confident that he had thoroughly searched the property. During a phone call with Miss Alderman, Gaskin was asked if he had searched the apartment. He said he did and added, "Do you understand she's not in there?" On the 7th day of Mary's disappearance, and despite multiple attempts by family members to explain the danger she was in, Detective Gaskin had finally issued a missing persons bulletin. The apparent lack of urgency only added to the family's feelings of betrayal and abandonment. As they waited for answers, the family decided to take matters into their own hands. They secured permission from the apartment complex corporate office to review the yard's security footage, only to learn that a warrant was not required after all. They combed through hours of footage, searching for any signs of Mary leaving the building, but their efforts yielded no results. Unfortunately, it would not be long before the family received unsettling news.
Then 2 days later, the witness called police again, insisting Mary's body was there. This time, detectives went in with a search warrant, shocking neighbors at the Noda apartment complex.
I'm losing it. You guys, what if someone just got murdered?
On April 4, 2020, the police received additional critical information discovered by Mary's former classmate who had been researching her case. As a result of her work, 2 witnesses went to Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department headquarters to give a statement, insisting that Mary's body was still in the apartment. Homicide detectives were brought in, and this time, police obtained a search warrant. As reported by WCNC-TV, detectives revealed that Mary's lifeless body was skillfully hidden inside a mattress. The mattress springs had been removed to create a space for Mary's remains, which were concealed using a combination of plastic wrap, contractor-grade trash bags, and duct tape. Clothing, boxes, and various other items were then arranged around her body to maintain the mattress's shape. The edges were secured with duct tape, and clothing and blankets were placed on top. The suspects then used dish detergent and pumpkin spice shower gel to mask the odor of decomposition. Miss Alderman and the rest of the family received the devastating news late in the evening. 2 officers were dispatched to the house to deliver the information, as Detective Gaskin, who had been handling the case and whom they had never met in person, was absent. After enduring 8 long days of agonizing mental torture, the family's worst fears were finally confirmed. Their beloved Mary, the light of their lives, had been taken from them. The realization was like a dagger through their hearts, leaving them shattered and inconsolable. Mary had been the heart and soul of their family, always bringing joy and laughter wherever she went. Her infectious smile. On April 5th, police located and arrested James Salerno at his home in the University area of Charlotte. All 3 suspects were charged with first-degree murder, first-degree kidnapping, and concealing or failing to report a death. They were each held without bond. A 4th suspect, America Deal, had fled the state. The accused are as follows. 21-year-old Lavi Pham, Kelly's boyfriend, with a history of substance abuse. 24-year-old Kelly Lavery is described as the ringleader, a woman from a well-off family with a troubled past, including substance abuse and an arrest record. Multiple people who knew her came forward after the incident to state she had previously spoken of wanting to know what it's like to kill someone. She was arrested in 2019 on charges of simple assault. 20-year-old James Salerno is described as best friends with Kelly and Lavi. He has an extensive arrest record that includes an armed robbery charge in 2017 and multiple marijuana possession charges. And 18-year-old America Deal, whom James had recently met and with whom he was involved in a romantic relationship. According to court records, prosecutors described text messages between Kelly and Lavi, dating back several months, that show the couple intended to lure Mary to their apartment for a threesome. If she refused, they would take her life, although some sources stated they believed the couple had planned to kill Mary all along as entertainment. After Mary arrived at the couple's apartment on March 28, they allegedly put substances in her drink and food, including Xanax, to debilitate her. Afterward, according to prosecutors, Mary was assaulted, placed in a bathtub, and repeatedly stabbed. According to an autopsy report, the medical examiner noted Mary had been cut 133 times. After weeks of investigation, prosecutors were able to build a case against James Salerno. They had phone records that placed him at the scene of the crime, both during and after the incident. Furthermore, they found an app on his phone that contained a list of cleaning supplies, which investigators believe James, Lavi, Kelly, and America used to clean up the crime scene. Although America had fled the state following the murder, she was active on social media, including the following post. To do, praise the Lord, break the law, take what's mine, take some more. America turned herself in to local police in Thornton, Colorado. She was then extradited to Charlotte, where she faced charges of felony accessory after the fact and concealing a death. America was held in custody until a bond hearing took place 15 months later, after which the Collins family received the following urgent advisory via email. Urgent advisory dated September 18, 2021. Thank you for registering for victim notification through the North Carolina Savin service. This email is to inform you that America Deal has been released from custody as of September 18, 2021. The release reason is bonded out. If you have any concerns about your immediate safety, contact your local law enforcement agency, or if you have an emergency, call 911. Mary's family was shocked to discover that not only was America Deal free, but she was unmonitored and had once again fled the state in violation of the court order. The family also learned that the Charlotte police had altered their ankle monitoring policy in 2019 for murder suspects released on bail, refusing to assign electronic ankle bracelets. This policy aimed to pressure judges to stop granting bail to murder suspects and was enforced without first consulting judges. Furthermore, the acting police chief, Kerr Putney, stated that judges did not consult with him when recommending electronic monitoring, therefore he would not consult with them about the new monitoring policy. Undeterred, the Collins family worked with the district attorney to arrange a hearing to clarify the requirements of America's bond. After reviewing the documents, the judge imposed the following conditions on America's release. She was to obtain third-party ankle monitoring paid for by herself, a curfew of 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., no contact with co-defendants, and a psychological evaluation to be completed within 30 days. Despite the court order, the Collins family believes that America Deal should not have been extended the opportunity to be free, considering the nature of the charges against her. Unfortunately, it would not be the only legal setback for Mary's family. Two years after Mary's murder, Lavi, Kelly, and James Salerno were still in jail awaiting trial. On Thursday, June 30th, 2022, Kelly Lavery accepted a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to a lesser charge of murder in the second degree, kidnapping in the first degree, and concealment of a body. In exchange for the guilty plea, she received a sentence of 25 to 32 years in prison for the brutal murder of Mary Santina Collins. Her projected release date is June 29, 2047. Mary's family, who attended the hearing, were understandably upset with the plea agreement.
She saw the light of my sister and she wanted to put it out because you don't know what light is.
Passionate moments as Mary Collins' family addressed the court.
She couldn't speak very well. She couldn't yell like this. She couldn't scream. I think she called for me.
Family says Collins took an Uber and was lured to an apartment in Noda. In late March 2020, her family reported her missing after not hearing from her for several days. In April, when police returned to the apartment, they found her body hidden inside of a mattress, details that brought the prosecutor to tears.
Her body had been wrapped tightly in trash bags and duct tape, and then placed back in the mattress from which the box springs had been removed.
4 people were charged in connection to Collins' death. 2 of them were in court today. Kelly Lavery pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, concealment of a body, and first-degree kidnapping charges, and accepted the plea arrangement after Lavery addressed the court.
And finally, I want to pray for Mary, that she's in peace, and that she knows I'm so sorry for what happened to her.
Lavi Pham, who was charged with first-degree murder, first-degree kidnapping, and concealing or failing to report a death, was also in court and pleaded not guilty. We spoke to Collins' family after court today. Collins' mother said this.
As a mother, it just feels like nothing is going to satisfy me, but I want something to be done, if that makes sense. Every day I think about how many more days do I have, because I have to live those days without ever seeing my daughter again.
Mary's grandmother, Miss Mia Alderman, spoke about witnessing the plea deal being finalized in court.
I'm destroyed. There's no language for how I'm doing. I haven't got a language to explain that to you. No language exists for this kind of agony. What they did to Mary, what she went through, the depravity, the level of just the heinous, horrible things they did to her, and that I wasn't there, and I couldn't stop them.
On January 12, 2023, after being in jail for nearly 3 years on a first-degree murder charge, and despite opposition from Mary's family members, James Salerno was granted bond at $250,000. Mary's grandmother and the dozen friends and family members who appeared on behalf of Collins were furious with the decision. Miss Alderman was shaking as prosecutors read the facts of the case in court, including details of Mary's injuries. What Salerno has done is possibly one of the most depraved cases Charlotte has ever seen, she said. Adding insult to injury, not only was bond set at $250,000, but Salerno may be released without additional conditions typically available in murder cases. Miss Alderman said, "They gave us no protection, no order to stay away from us or America deal. There was no electronic monitoring, nothing." In summary, as of the date of this video, Kelly Lavery accepted a plea deal for a lesser charge of second-degree murder with a reduced sentence. James Salerno has been granted bond. According to county records, he has not yet made bond. America Deal is released on bond pending trial, and La Vie Femme remains in custody. His trial date remains undetermined nearly 3 years after his arrest. Mary Santina Collins, a 20-year-old woman with a full life ahead of her, tragically lost her life in Charlotte, North Carolina in what many consider one of the most gruesome murders ever committed. Her family, determined to seek justice for Mary, has faced numerous legal challenges, including a lack of urgency in the early stages of the investigation and legal loopholes that allowed some of the suspects to escape accountability, at least temporarily. Yet, Mary's family did not let these setbacks deter them from pursuing the justice they deserve and advocating for change on behalf of others. Through their advocacy group, Mary's Voice, they have been working to improve missing person investigations involving disabled individuals and to give families more influence over determining whether a missing person is in danger. While Mary's tragic story is a reminder of the injustices that can occur, her family's resolve to make a difference offers hope for a better future. If you're interested in supporting Mary's Voice, there are a few ways you can help. First, you can spread the word about the organization and their mission to obtain justice for Mary Santina Collins. Share their social media posts, tell your friends and family about their cause, and encourage others to get involved. If you'd like to offer support in other ways, you can reach out to Mary's Voice directly and inquire about other ways you can get involved. Any support you can offer will help Mary's Voice continue their important work and honor the memory of Mary Santina Collins.